Welcome to the Inner Self-Confidence Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Delamon. Real talk for women who are done overthinking, freezing, or abandoning themselves. If you are ready to feel calm in your body, trust yourself, and speak up without forcing it, you're in the right place. Because confidence isn't something you perform, it's something you build from the inside out. Let's go. Welcome to episode 51 of the Inner Self-Confidence Podcast. The real reason you procrastinate. Your nervous system is protecting you. All right. Imagine there's something you genuinely want to do. Maybe it's starting a business, launching a podcast, or launching any type of business, going to the gym, eating healthier, speaking up in your relationship, whether that's with your partner or maybe that's at work. Maybe it's leaving a relationship. Maybe it's applying for a promotion. Maybe it's potentially wanting to leave a job that is really unfulfilling, but you're scared to do it and you keep procrastinating, doing the things that you really want to do, and you know that it would make your life better. And every day you might wake up and think, I'll start tomorrow. And then tomorrow never comes and nothing. And eventually you start believing that you're lazy, that you're unmotivated, that you just don't have enough discipline, and that good things don't happen to you, and that other people outside of you can have these great things in this great life, but not you. But what if I were to tell you that your body is actually protecting you? It's not trying to make you feel like shit. It's actually just remembering what you used to do when you were little and you felt fear and stress, which is what we call in the nervous system that freeze mode. And it is very confusing. I'm going to tell you what it is, why it's so confusing, and what you can actually do sustainably to get yourself out of freeze or unthawed. I sometimes like to think of it because this is one of my go-to trauma or stress responses is freeze and shut down. I am like the queen of like not doing, avoiding, and disassociating. I can get to those states very easily and quickly, and that's what I usually go to when I do have a lot of stress and fear. But anyways, I want to bring this back. If you haven't listened to my episode, Trauma is Not Drama, or The Science of Stress, Life Doesn't Calm Down Until You Do. I think that's like the first 5 or 6 podcasts. It's like number 3 and maybe number 5 or something. Or no, 3 is the mother wound. Anyways, I will link them in the show notes. Listen to them. They'll give you a better understanding of, what happened in your childhood and why it's keeping you back from excelling and expanding now as an adult. We want to be thriving, right? Not just surviving. So let me explain. I'll try to make it really short and sweet. When you were little, your nervous system, which is your brain, your spinal cord, and all your nerve endings. This is what controls your body temperature, your breathing, your emotional regulation, your hormones, your digestive, like all the most important things in your body. It learned how to survive, not how to make you happy. So when you were little and when you felt fear and stress in the home, maybe that was because it was unpredictable. Maybe you had parents who didn't know how to regulate their own emotions, which is, I would say, all of us. Maybe you were criticized and that caused you some fear and stress. Maybe you were afraid of expressing yourself because it wasn't met with a kind, compassionate, sounding board. Or maybe when you made mistakes, they had consequences. And again, you didn't feel safe emotionally, maybe physically, maybe mentally. Your body adapted to that stressful environment and that fearful state. So when we go into stress, right, the body will either want to fight, it will want to leave the flight. But when it can't fight or flight, when your nervous system goes into that sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, like where it gets really anxious, but it can't fight and it can't flee, it's going to freeze and shut down. It's going to start to take it's going to be pressing on the gas. That's why you're feeling anxious, but it's also going to then step on the brake. And that's what we call freeze mode, and it's kind of what you feel like when you're in fawn, where you want to do something, but you feel like you can't. That's with freeze. You feel overwhelmed and underwhelmed all at the same time. That's how I like to explain it. I feel like, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed. I want to do all these things. I have all these ideas. And then at the same time, you feel so underwhelmed and you're like, It's too much. I can't. Like the pile just feels way too big. Like where do I even start? Like trying to find a needle in a goddamn haystack. Like it feels impossible and too much. That's because we're trying to approach finding that needle in the haystack in the same way we try to approach everything. Way too fast, way too much, and not sustainably. Like we go at it in a very masculine way. Like we need to solve this now and we need to be unfrozen by tomorrow immediately. Like that's not how it works. So what does the freeze mode? You become quiet, you sort of disappear, you don't move. This procrastination. This is where procrastination lives. And so many people are like, "Oh, I'm just ADHD. Oh, I just have too many things on my plate. Oh, I'm just, I'm so distracted. Oh, I just have too many things going on in my life right now." And it's like, no, 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 no. Everybody has a lot of things going on in their life. Everybody has stress. Everybody has commitments. Everybody is living in, 2026 world where things are moving fast. You are stuck in freeze and you're just making excuses to stay in freeze. That's really what's happening if you want to use those excuses that you don't have time and everything's just too much. And again, like I said, you're probably approaching it in a very masculine kind of like way. The only way that we ever unfreeze ourselves is through a lot of compassion. And people think that's through passivity, but it's not. So let's get back to when you were little. When you were little, and if you couldn't fight it, if you couldn't flee it, you froze. You became quiet. Your nervous system learned that as a protective measure. So when you felt fear or stress, instead of getting angry because your parents would get more angry at you, and instead of leaving because you couldn't, you froze. And then that was also a safety thing because then your parents couldn't get mad at you, right? Because you didn't do anything, you didn't react. So you now think as an adult, oh, well, that's the safe way to respond to stress and fear. But this is what it looks like now as an adult, okay? The danger is no longer getting in trouble with your parents. The danger might be, well, what if I try that and it fails? Like, what if I quit my job and try to do my own business, but I waste a lot of money. I waste a lot of time. I fail. People judge me. What if I embarrass myself? All of these things. What if nobody supports me? What if you're just thinking of all these what ifs that are actually not life-threatening, but yes, they could be a challenge in the future. They could be really annoying to have to deal with in the future. But is your business failing of you losing money actually life-threatening? No. Like nobody wants to lose a ton of money, but the fact that you think it might be life-threatening is is just a catastrophizing idea. Like there's always help if you ask for it. There's always money to be made somewhere. And again, it might not be in the exact way you have dreamed and hoped, but it's you going into that catastrophizing, fearful, stressful state. Well, if I do that, these are all the risks. And so now your body's remembering, well, what did I do when things were too much and I couldn't yell and I couldn't leave? I froze. So this is what you do. You procrastinate. This is what your body's remembering to do when you feel fear and stress. You're freezing. And you can still feel anxious and still do nothing. That's what freeze mode is. People often confuse it though with, but I just feel so calm and I just don't feel like anything is necessary. And I feel like it's just my time to, do nothing right now. And I will absolutely 100% agree. I think there's always, always a time for everything. There are times when you're not meant to be taking a lot of action. I do believe we also work in seasons like nature. And when winter comes, it is more of a time to go in, not so much expand. But that we all have our own seasons in life. And I'm not talking about always expanding and always doing and always taking action. Like, no, that's not also sustainable either. But I'm talking about the things that you really, really want to do and you just can't seem to do it. You just keep procrastinating. You just keep putting it off and you keep saying next month, next week, next year, whatever it is. And it just never happens. Like, I'll give you my example of my book. That book was an idea 7 years ago. It took me 4 whole years. There were so many times where I did not think it was going to happen, where I could not even fathom how it was ever going to be done. But I just kept fucking going with the little momentum that I could when I could do it because it cost me a lot of money. It cost me a lot of time. It cost me a lot of effort. But I really and truly, it was my dream to do. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm gonna make it happen. And so I really truly believe, like, if there's a will, there's a way. But if you're stuck in freeze mode, your body's not going to be able to get you there. And this is how I want to help you get out of freeze. And I want to go back to why it feels confusing. And I've touched on it before. It's because you're in that sympathetic state, your fight or flight state. You're like stepping on the gas really hard. And that's why you feel really anxious and overwhelmed and probably can't breathe properly. But then you're stepping on the brake pedal. So you're stepping on the gas and the brake, the dorsal vagal shutdown of like, whoa, 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 we got to stop this cart. Like, this is just way too much. So stepping on the brakes and stepping on the gas is super confusing. I don't know if you've ever driven a car and you've tried to step on the gas and the brake at the same time, but the engine doesn't like that, okay? It's not good for anybody, any person or any car. So don't try it. Actually, do not try that at home. But it's confusing. As a human being, you're like, what is going on? You desperately want to move, but you feel like you're pulling up on the handbrake. You can feel restless, overwhelmed. You don't send the email. You don't make the phone call. You do not begin. And it's incredibly frustrating because you think, but why can't I just do it? Like, I'm an adult. I know what I'm supposed to do. Why can't I do it? Why can't I do it? And I see this because this is what I really help people with is speaking up. Speaking up is the biggest freeze. I think in everybody, especially women's life, like speaking up is one of the biggest freeze responses because when we were little, we have it ingrained in our head that, well, when I spoke up when I was little, nobody listened to me. So it didn't matter. Why? It's just going to be a waste of time. And then, or maybe you spoke up, but it made things worse either with your parents or with yourself or both. So now you think, well, but it's just going to cause too much stress. And I don't need that right now. They don't need that right now. Like, we do not need this. Like, no, we already have way too much on our plate. And last but certainly not least, you're not speaking up because you actually believe that it has to be perfect and that you're going to be able to just speak up perfectly and clearly all the time. And that if it doesn't come natural, then it's not right. Like, this is living in a delusional land that you're going to be speaking up perfectly. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. I just have to tell you, as someone who speaks up all the time, I'm 40 years old and I am still trying to work on my delivery every day. I mean, this is why I'm doing the podcast because this is helping me speak from my own authentic voice and be okay with it and learn, okay, don't do that. Let's do a little bit more of this. Let's do a little bit less of that. Like it's craft. Like speaking up is a craft. It's not something that you just perfected overnight because you turned 45 years old. You have to keep doing it over and over, and you have to get okay with doing it wrong and being rejected a lot. And now I also talk about this because recently I was talking to somebody on Instagram and she was like, I just freeze. And I'm like, are you freezing with, just your partner or at work or like what situation is it? She's like, all the situations, all the relationships. And I was like, yeah, that's definitely freeze mode. And I hear it all the time. People assume that they're just conflict avoidant, or I'm just not somebody who likes confrontation. And I'm like, I know there's lawyers out there who probably love confrontation, but that's probably 0.0001% of the world. Like nobody actually likes confrontation. And if you don't like that word, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Ilvania Van Zant, she call it carefrontation. I care about you and our relationship so much that I'm not gonna just act like everything's okay when it's not. I'm not just gonna sweep this underneath the rug because I care so much about this relationship. Call it carefrontation, not confrontation. And so it doesn't sound so heavy. And again, people are mistaking their freeze mode for their personality. You are not someone who just doesn't like conflict. You are not just someone who can't talk about things. That is not a personality. That is a nervous system response. It's a survival response when you go into stress, okay? It is not your personality. And so when you do have difficult conversation, the body is probably going to want to hit the brakes. We get that. Yeah, it's totally fine. And I like to remind people that if you don't start talking, how emotional suppression, it is scientifically researched that it increases cancer by 70%, by cardiovascular disease by 35 or 45%. Like it is worse than drinking, smoking, and obesity. Emotional suppression will show up in your body. Every uncried tear is going to show up as inflammation. Like everything you are swallowing and shoving down and not saying and not meaning, it's not just about just speaking. It's about speaking in a way that is aligned to how you truly feel in your heart. Because for me, I used to speak up a lot, but I did it from a place of anger and resentment and blame and shame and just like being very misaligned with how I really felt in my heart. Like I would speak up, but it wasn't from the right place. So remember that speaking up is also doing it in place of alignment. That's what I like to teach people, not just speaking up, but you will have to start practice speaking up if you've never done it before. And so when we're constantly living on alignment with ourselves, our authentic selves, swallowing our words, ignoring our needs, suppressing our emotions, our bodies get the attention. Chronic stress, I feel, influences everything from your sleep, digestion, to muscle tension, to headaches, fatigue, and many other symptoms. So, how do we get out of freeze mode? This one is an answer that I would say not many people like because the answer is gently, not aggressively, not fast, not fast, okay? I've said this in a few other podcast episodes, but it took me 39 years to heal one trauma. It took me 11 years to manifest one thing that was on my vision board for 11 years. 11 years. It took me 39 years, maybe 38 years, to actually start waking up without an alarm clock and not snooze. It took me over 30 years to heal my IBS. It took me 7 years to get out of freeze mode and to actually start going back to the gym. And I'm going to talk about that because that's probably the best example I have. And it happened recently. So from the age of 30 to 37, I stopped going to the gym because I was like, I need to heal my inside. And I'm not going to worry about like my body. I'm like, I'm done worrying about how I look. I want to worry about how I feel and my relationship to my partner. And so I focused all my time and energy instead of like looking the best to feeling the best on the inside. I literally started from the inside out. And you know what happened in those 7 years? All the weight that I was trying so hard to lose in my 20s magically just fell off of my body and never returned because I learned how to regulate my nervous system and actually deal with my emotions and my trauma and my shit. And in a relationship, I dealt with those relational dynamics. I healed in a relational way in a relationship. But, anyways, in those 7 years, I not only lost a lot of weight, but I lost a lot of muscle weight. And I started having a lot of physical pain in my feet and my back, a lot of different. And I knew, I'm not a dum-dum. I know that we start losing muscle after 30, like rapidly worse after 40, and that it's very important for many things. I knew that keeping muscle on the body is important. And so I wanted to get back into it, but I had absolutely no desire, no motivation, no inspiration. And I'm going to tell you flat out, I had free gym membership all those years because I was teaching yoga at gyms. I had multiple gym memberships in some of the nicest gyms in Brisbane and the Gold Coast. I just wouldn't go. And so I said, okay, Katie, what is gentle and what is really uncomfortable? So this is another thing about freeze mode that people don't want to do. They want to do things gentle, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. They think that being uncomfortable is going to cause them more stress, and it does, but it's about widening that window of tolerance. So I said, okay, what is something that is wildly uncomfortable for me? And for me, spending money on something, a lot of money, is uncomfortable. And it challenges me because I'm also going to do it. So if I had a free membership or if I had a free membership to a gym, I would never go. I just wouldn't. It is a psychology is money. I do not put effort behind things that are free. I just don't. I mean, okay, you can say, well, you don't pay to be in a marriage and you put a lot of, okay, some things in life are free in that sense, but when it comes to actually goals, I spent $30,000 to write my book. I would have never been able to write that if I wasn't paying people to help me write it. I could never just do it on my own. I have to pay people to help me to do things. This is another thing about freeze mode. People think that they just can get out of freeze mode by themselves all the time. Like they're just going to overnight become motivated or overnight they're just going to be able to do what they want to do. But it's gentle and it's uncomfortable. So I said my goal was like, okay, I want to get to a place where I can take myself to the gym at least 3 days a week, do my own thing, whether that's weightlifting, yoga, Pilates, blah, blah, blah. And said, okay, I'm gonna hire a trainer. She's $120 a week, and she's 56 years old at the time. She's 60 now. She had a baby at 42, and she's fucking fit as hell. And shout out to Karen, my trainer. I love her. She's a dear friend and a beautiful person inside and out. And she's an amazing trainer because she knows a woman's body. She knows about aging. She knows about hormones, and she knows she's not some 21-year-old who's gonna make my stress worse so that my body is going to be working against me. Anyways, $120 a week. And I said, I'm going to keep going until I feel comfortable and confident enough that I can go on my own and join a gym. And it took me a whole year. That's $6,300 that I spent on someone to work out for 1 hour a week. That's it. I didn't go any more than that for a whole year. I know so many people who haven't gone to a gym in X amount of years or X amount of months, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to the gym 3 to 5 days a week. It's so great. And then you talk to them 2 months later and they're like, yeah, I'm just so stressed. I just too much, or they hurt themselves. I've been going to the gym 3 days a week for the past 2 or 3 years. And when I had that trainer every week for a whole year, I have not had one injury ever at all in 3 years. That's not because I'm lucky. That's because I'm not doing anything to overextend my body. I'm listening to my body. Could I go stronger? Probably. But again, I'm probably not going to push myself, and that's why having a trainer would help me in that sense. But anyways, my long story short, to get out of freeze mode, you have to do something gentle, consistent, and uncomfortable. So what do you want? What is the thing that you want to unfreeze? What is the thing that you want to stop procrastinating on? Is it going to the gym? Is it having a conversation or growing a better relationship, whether that's with your partner or a family member? It's like, what can you do that is very gentle, that is very consistent, and that is really uncomfortable? And I mean, when I say really uncomfortable, you know that you have to widen your own window of tolerance. So don't compare your uncomfortable to my uncomfortable because we have two different windows of tolerances. Okay. So please never compare your uncomfortableness to somebody else's. You have to listen to your body and know, okay, ooh, this is uncomfortable, but we're not going too far out of that comfort, like the discomfort to where then you disassociate or you get way too stressed and you just like burn out, So window of tolerance is your window. Only you know your body, but you definitely have to keep pushing that window to go bigger and bigger. So I would definitely, ask yourself, what is it that I want to really do? And I mean, if you have to go through the why, that's a very important question as well. Not many people do think about that. I personally know my why for everything I do, but I do self-reflect on that stuff often, and I do vision boards and all that stuff. But anyways, get very clear on what the thing that you want to do, that you want to stop procrastinating on. Okay, what is something I can do that's really uncomfortable every day or every week or every month? I don't know what the goal is, but maybe it's work with somebody. And this is why I'm a coach, because I could have never done the things that I've wanted to do in life without a coach. I've hired so many business coaches. My first business coach was like $18,000 that I invested in her and all these Facebook ads. I learned how to make digital programs, do landing pages. I learned how to do so much technology that I was in freeze mode for so long. I was like, I don't know how to build a website. I don't know how to build digital programs. I don't know how to upload this and do that and download that. And I mean, I learned how to do so much technology stuff that I would have never been able to do and push myself because I hired somebody to help me. And okay, yes, could I have done it on my own? Yeah, sure, but I never would have. I hired a coach to help me train for the marathon because I never ran more than a mile, okay? I hired a coach recently, a business coach, $7,500, and like I said, I spent $30,000 to write my book and I've only made $3,000. But what I've gained from that is so much more than money. And you have to stop looking at like necessarily what am I getting out of it? It's what are you losing by not investing? Like start thinking about that. Like what are you losing by procrastinating? Are you losing time, energy, focus, like health? Like you've got to look at it like not like, well, what am I gonna get out of it? It's what are you losing? Like what is actually like diminishing in your life by freezing and by procrastinating. And it's look, we all have something and we all nobody's perfect. Nobody's figured it out all the way yet. That's not what I'm saying. Is just break it down into something small. Maybe hire somebody to help you. It doesn't have to be me. It could be anybody that, depending on what this goal is of yours. But support is also one of the biggest key factors of all healing. So, support is more important than resilience or mental toughness or being able to get through things. If you don't have support, and I would say the right support, which can be a little, subjective, if you don't have the right support, you can't do anything. And we're social creatures. We are more effective in groups and community. And again, I would say right groups, right communities, really noticing and being aware of like your friends or maybe your coaches or people that you do hire. Like, are they aligned to your values? Do you feel that you are expanding? And sometimes you have to contract before you expand. But yeah, just be mindful obviously that some people and places and things are not aligned for you, and that's okay. But this is how we build confidence is getting out of that freeze mode by actually just taking action, even though you may not have all of the answers and you might mess up and you might fail and you might do it wrong and you might not make your money back and you might lose money and you might lose relationships and you might like there's so many things that probably will go wrong and not right, but there's probably a lot of things that do go right that help you later on as well. So, getting out of freeze, what is the thing that you're procrastinating about? What can you do consistently, gently, and uncomfortably? Key is the uncomfortable and gentle. You don't want to go too fast, too hard, too soon. This is how confidence is built. Not through massive action, not through pushing harder, not by bullying yourself. It's built on keeping one promise at a time. This is why when I work with people, it's about doing 10 minutes of meditation or 10 minutes of stillness a day. Not because I think meditation is going to change your life, although I think it can, but it's about keeping one small promise of, I did that every day for 10 minutes. Maybe you don't see a huge fucking shift, but it's that keeping a small promise and also getting in the habit of being okay with stillness because we operate on a very very overwhelmed information overload society. So if you can dedicate just 10 minutes of no information or noise for 10 minutes a day, that is a big win. That is going to build confidence. One regulated step at a time, one conversation, one workout, one boundary, one brave decision. Because every time you follow through, that's when your life starts to change, is when you start to change the normal operating system. Instead of thinking, oh, this is too hard, you're like, we can do hard things. Instead of thinking, oh, I don't feel comfortable right now, it's like, I might be a little challenged right now, but I can do hard things and it's okay if I feel uncomfortable. Or, oh, but I'm just somebody who freezes and can't say anything. You're like, no, sometimes, I need to pause before I respond, but that doesn't mean I can't speak up for myself. So we just start to change our beliefs by changing our behavior, by changing our thoughts, all that stuff. But freeze mode, you want to do something gentle, consistent, and uncomfortable. Gentle, consistent, and uncomfortable. And if you need help unthawing yourself, getting out of freeze mode, if you're procrastinating about something, more than likely it's a boundary issue as well, probably with yourself. So if you want any guidance on that, we can always sync up either one-to-one or maybe my group coaching program, which I am opening the doors for. I am looking for 5 brave women. I'm just calling in 5 brave women because I've never done this group coaching program before. And I really want to empower women. Like, this is my mission. This is my goal. If you want to be confident by Christmas, it's the 90 days to inner self-confidence. We start in September, October, November. You are going to be confident by Christmas. And if you're not confident by Christmas, we will continue working together. Okay. That is my promise. I guarantee you that if there is something you want to manifest, if there is something you want to stop procrastinating about, I will help you get there. If you want to read about my wild ride from mindlessness to mindfulness, you can check out my book, Trust the Flames, on Amazon or anywhere they sell books. If you want to talk to me, free discovery call, or learn anything about my offerings, jump on my website, www.katiedelmont.com. Till next time, bye.